And let's jump to some few examples from the last few days. And here we can find a forecast of a 3-day forecast that was generated on January 2nd, like you can see here the date, 2025 for the new year. And the algorithm actually gave us the best 10 stocks to invest in these 3 days, or to hold in these 3 days. It's actually suggests us to buy the stocks at the opening, or as much as closer to the closing price of the previous day. In this example, we can find stocks such as FFIE that related to the consumer cycle sector, or we can find the ONDS, which is related to the communication sector, or RGTY, which I guess some of you already know, and if not, you should know, that related to the quantum sector that we're going to talk about later on. Really interesting stock. But to the right, we can find the performance of those 10 stocks in those 3 days. And in the bottom of this forecast, we can find the average of those 10 stocks and compared to the S&P 500 universe that we can find in the bottom of this forecast. We have some volatile stocks here, such as STEM, the utility company that actually performed more than 100% in those 3 days. And if we're jumping to the 7 days time frame, this is also a forecast that was generated on 26th of December. We can find the best stocks to be in for the next week. And in this universe, you can find another quantum stock, UBTS, RGTI again, ONDS, and a lot of stocks that actually outperform the market. And not all the stocks are going to the right direction. Some of their stocks are going to the wrong direction. As we can find here, the small x's means that the algorithm didn't has a correct forecast for this specific asset, but we can find that the majority of the stocks made some really interesting performance, such as, again, RGTI, 76% in 7 days, and the quantum momentum here was actually pretty good. And we can actually, the algorithm saw that the quantum trend at the beginning of it, and we're going to see it later on. But we can find a variety of stocks from different sectors that the algorithm thinks and believes that going to be going to outperform the market in those 7 days. Same goes with 14 days. And again, you get all the time frames to your mail, and you can see and find and focus on the time frame that you're interested in, if it's the shorter time frames or the longer time frames. In the 1 month, for example, we can see that the signals are getting stronger and being stronger and stronger as we're going up the longer time frames, and also the predictability indicators that we can find here on the bottom left of each and every stock are also getting higher and higher. That's why we are generally advising focusing on the longer time frames of, for example, 1 month, 3 months, and 1 year, and pick the stocks from the longer time frames that has high predictability values and high signals. Here we can find some interesting some stocks, for example, WSM. The WSM is actually from the home builders universe, and it went up by 9%. And if you check XHB, that's the sector which is belonged to, you can see that actually the sector went down by 8% this month. So the stocks actually moved up against the sector, against the trend of the stock universe which is belonged to. So it's really interesting to see. We can find stocks such as Real that we can see here that has a really high volume, a high signal. We can find it here. The signal here is 10.22, the highest signal in the package. And the predictability is 0.48. It's not the highest, but it's pretty okay for the 1 month. And we can see that Real, this stock has jumped by 67% in a 1 month time frame. And all of that happened while the S&P went down by 2.72%. The average of this forecast went up by 8%, while the S&P moved down by 2.7%. And I think you already understand the value of such a forecast. For the longer time frames of 3 months, which I really like, we can find stocks, for example, as Palantir, which on October 3rd, the algorithm gave a strong recommendation for this specific stock, and it's outperforming the market with 72%, PTON as well, PayPal, SIM, the ARK ETF also is in this specific universe. We can see Royal Caribbean and other stocks from this universe that actually outperform the market in a really big measures. We can see 35% compared to the 4% movement of the S&P in this specific time frame from the beginning of October up until now.
It's really interesting, as you said, to see here that the algorithm picked both Royal Caribbean and also Carnival here, but two cruising companies, as well as PLTR, as you mentioned, Square, SQ, you know, before the recent jump in the Bitcoin price. We're talking about 3 months ago, right? Talking about the beginning of October. So very interesting prediction. By the way, we see here Royal Caribbean, we see CCL, and we see also ZIM, right? ZM.
Yeah. A lot of cruising companies.
Interesting.
Some industrial, some not, but not just that. You think that the algorithm actually find the Palantir on October 3rd? No, it's actually went back to January 2024, the beginning of the year. The algorithm in the 1-year time frame actually marked Palantir as one of the best stocks for this year, and we can see the staggering 289% performance in 1 year. We can also find the Google and the BSNL, which led this forecast with the highest signal. But you can see here the signals are pretty high, and the predictability is also high. So that's why we are again suggesting focusing on the highest on the longer time frames of 1 month, 3 months, and 1 year. Pick the stocks from these time frames, and then maybe even try to find them in the shorter time frame. And if it appears in multiple time frame, it's even better. So do that while you're choosing your stocks from the forecast. And in the same way, we are generating forecasts for the ETF universe in the US. As well, here we can find the best ETF that the algorithm suggests to hold for a period of 3 days and 1 year. Again, you get the 6 time frames, of course. Here we can see a lot of ETFs from different universe. If it's the Russell, if it's the USO, we can see the leverage in Nasdaq here, TQQQ, and in the 1 year, again, you can find the home builders, the tech sector, the financial sector, that also was suggested by the algorithm to hold for the period of 1 year from January 5th, 2024.